Well, this is episode 373 of the 3 Point Podcast. We are presented by the great folks at the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Make sure you follow the Wellness Center on Facebook. Get all the details on all they have going on. We're also brought to you in part by Rivals Tap House and Grill, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, Shiawassee County Fair, ALS of Michigan. Our other partners include AZ Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Corey Shook and Associates Real Estate Services, and Nelson House Funeral Homes. You know, this is going to be a fun podcast, fellas, because we got a couple of special guests. Bill Hobson of Michigan Golf Live is joining us here on this podcast to talk about golf and has some great stories to include. And also Matt Saunders of the Last of the Fullbacks. And you're going to want to listen to that part too, because it talks about really the forgotten position in football, fullbacks. It's really cool.
Yep. Fullbacks are the best type of guys. They are, he did a decent job of explaining it, where it's like, it's not a job where you're scoring a zillion touchdowns and, you're going to put in the front page of the newspaper. You're basically a glorified lineman. So it is an awesome position. I really appreciate both these guys. I mean, the Michigan Golf Live, you guys almost somewhat humored me with that one because I'm just such a massive golf fan and what that guy does, Bill Hobson, that it was awesome to get to talk to him. As I called him on our interview, kind of the Michigan czar of golf here. So it was a lot of fun, both of them, chatting with both of them.
Yeah, he had a really good story about attending the Masters. You're definitely going to want to tune into. Really good story. Yep. But, I wanted to jump in here. Last week we had a little entertainment tonight. You guys brought up both a couple of good movies from, ironically, the same year, 2006, The Prestige and The Illusionist. It piqued my interest, so I decided to watch both of them, and both very well done, little different twist in each of them, but I really enjoyed those movies, and if somebody hasn't had a chance yet to do it, I give my recommendation. They're both very good movies.
Yeah, we talked about, you saw The Prestige, Jared, and I haven't watched either of those. I mentioned it last week in quite a while. So I'm curious, Ted, what your thoughts?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to necessarily say which one was better. I mean, you can.
No, he's got to. Without it, two magician movies, same. It's like he's almost got to. Right. What was the review of them, man?
Yeah, I would say
that was going to be my question. Was going to be, did you get got? I get, or like, could you see the twist? Because what I remember from when I watched them, I didn't see the twists in either of them, from what I remember.
The final twist, no, I agree. Yeah. They both presented the twist at the end very well. I'll give the review. I'll be honest. It's not because I'm related to Jared, but I think I probably give the edge to The Prestige.
Christian Bale was great.
Christian Bale was fantastic. The twist in that one was really good. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Didn't you feel kind of dumb? I mean,
a little.
We'll listen to the spoiler if you still want to check that movie out, but that character was such a nothing that ended up being his twin that they basically were hiding underneath the makeup. Like, I felt so idiotic, like how I didn't pick up on that. That's how I felt, at least.
And then on The Illusionist, well acted, Jessica Biel, just a gorgeous actress for sure. But Paul Giamatti, I didn't realize he was in it, and he had a big part, and I thought he was really, really good. And Edward Norton, obviously good. So I would just give the edge slightly to The Prestige, but both really good movies. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, check it out. Now, the one I really wanted to bring up, it had piqued my interest, Matt. You didn't give it a hard sell, but I thought I'd watch it anyway. The Hunting Wives, okay?
We knew you'd watch this one.
Well, you gave the teaser, my interest, but it was so bad it kind of was good, if you know what I mean. I mean, every episode ended, you definitely wanted to check out the next episode. I mean, the girl that plays Sophie, what's her name, Brittany Snow or something?
Brittany Snow.
She's intriguing. You can't kind of take your eyes off her. And then the other chick, what was her name on the show? Margot. She's a kind of an unknown actress, but she did a good job as well. I think she's from Sweden. I think she's a Swedish actress with red hair. Go figure. But when I said it kind of was bad but good, I mean, let me just read this one little review I found, which kind of ties it all together. It says, "I'd be lying if I said I wasn't sucked in from the very first episode. It's got everything a good summer binge should have. Trashy beach read, mystery, sex, lies, and twist. It's so bad it's kind of good." I follow along that. Now, it lost me a little bit. Okay, I don't mind the sex stuff in these things, but when they showed what the sheriff's favorite kind of sex was, I had to get out of there right at that moment.
That was a wild
I'm gonna guess
scene.
what it was like BDSM type stuff, no,
even
not even that. Okay.
No, definitely not. This is a family-friendly podcast.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about,
right?
But you laid it out perfectly. Hey, is it going to win any awards? No, it's probably like an R-rated Lifetime movie, kind of. If you know what I mean. It's a good Netflix thing if you want to binge it and get a good mystery out of it. It did have a couple of interesting twists at the end, so. I'm glad I watched it. I mean, I stuck with all 8 episodes, even with the sheriff.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ridiculous, the storyline, but it's based on a novel. So I know, Jared, you're a big reader. I was saying to my wife while we were watching it, I'm like, what would this novel be like? Is it like 50 Shades of Grey or whatever?
Yeah,
what would this? Because a novel, I don't know, what is it, 500, 600, 700 pages? Like, and Ted, obviously you saw it. They definitely left it open to keep this thing going. I would assume Netflix would renew it because of how popular it was. So like, I didn't like the ending though. I told my wife right when it ended, I was like, all right, this was stupid. Like the whole show was, but I was like, the ending almost kind of ruined it. Because I was like, all right, this made it so ridiculous. Now
it's one of those.
It's so did you watch it, Jared?
No, but I can imagine. I had a similar feeling with a show that I think I threw out on here, maybe a couple months ago, Sirens, where it kind of was leading to where's this go, like where it was almost like a White Lotus type show where it's just leading to whatever that last little beat is going to be in that last episode, and it was just so damn dumb that it ruined the whole show.
Right. Yeah.
Was that kind of what this was, where it's like you're waiting, where is this, like what's going to be that last hammer, and it just kind of was a dud basically. But you appreciated being the suspense and everything that led to it, but it just fizzled at the end.
Yeah, it almost was kind of obvious that we didn't know it in the first place, and then that's the way they wrapped it up. You go, really? That's how it is? Okay. And then the other thing that was a little bit off-putting was Sophie. I mean, here she is all meek and mild and stuff, and all of a sudden she's doing her own investigation of stuff, checking out people's houses, knocking on trailer doors. Margot's brother answers the door full nude.
Sounds intriguing. Sounds like it. Like you guys, I kind of like you can't stop watching it, but then you watch it and you kind of go, why the hell did I just watch that?
It's exactly it. That's exactly it.
But I'm glad it was only 8 episodes, only 40 45 minutes per episode. So it easily bingeable. And there's some good moments, some good twists, but no. If season 2 comes out, we'll probably still watch it because
I'll check it out.
Want to see where it goes, but that's a fair review.
This is almost like a Suedo Teddertainment. I just got one thing real quick, and then we'll jump into Michigan. The quote unquote hammer that was dropped on us.
Right. Yeah.
This is real quick. I don't know if you guys have even been watching the first 2 episodes, but I just had to get my quick thoughts out on this because I do love this show so much. Hard Knocks. Just not nearly as compelling when it's a good team. As crazy as that kind of sounds. When I first heard the Buffalo Bills are going to be featured, I was like, man, I can't wait to freaking watch this. It's going to be awesome. But then once you kind of get into it, we're 2 episodes in, you have the Josh Allen feature, you have the DeMar Hamlin feature. Then you kind of realize, you know what this kind of needs? It needs the drama, of a coach on the hot seat. The urgency that those teams have, the Eberflusses, the Hugh Jackson from back in the day. Like there's something about those situations that makes it captivating. This one, it's just like the Bills. It's like this is just like a suck off of the Bills sesh. Like it's just we know they're awesome. There's no drama really in Bills camp. To me, it was kind of a bummer. I was kind of shocked how much I'm not. I still love the show, but it's just, man, you really do. That's the stuff you love. The rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield back in the day with the Browns. How are they going to fit in? To me, the more I thought about it, it's like, what would have been the great team to do this year? It would have been the Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis Hunter. How is he fitting in offensively and defensively? We saw the weird, press conference with the head coach with the whole Duval thing. We saw the GM who was basically calling like Travis Hunter like a football god. Like I was like, man, I want to hear more about this team. That is the team I wish we would have maybe saw this year. But yeah, it just is not rubbing me the wrong way. It's still very good television, but something I thought was going to be really cool turned out to be kind of like the opposite of what we all want and what we all like about Hard Knocks, which is that drama of those teams on the verge of, basically cleaning house. So I just had to throw that out real quick. That's my 2-second review on Hard Knocks this year. Still a great show, but that's just what we're missing this year.
Yeah. I'll still watch it, but I haven't seen an episode yet, so I'll have to catch up. I was too busy watching Magic. So we'll take a short break, and then we're going to give our thoughts on the Michigan football situation right after this. All right, who wants to start?
Well, you teased it, Jared. It was teased as a hammer was going to drop on Michigan, that the NCAA finally was going to finish their investigation. Some big media members or just the loud voices on social media of rival fan bases were saying this was going to be it. Wins are going to be vacated, titles are going to be stripped. Harbaugh's vindication is coming for all the people who hate Michigan. And it basically didn't happen. I mean, a big fine that, for Michigan is basically chump change, $20 million. Long suspensions for Harbaugh and Connor Stallions, and essentially nothing. A very big slap on the wrist. National championship still valid, all that kind of stuff. So for the people who hate Michigan, they absolutely hate this because they wanted to see title stripped, wins vacated, trophies gone out, all that kind of stuff. They wanted to see that because I think a lot of people still are in the camp that Michigan, for basically 3 seasons, just flat out cheated their way to 3 straight Big Ten championships, 3 straight college football playoff appearances, and then a national championship. And I mean, this isn't, I mean, obviously I got Michigan football helmets behind me and, national championship flag back there. Ted's wearing a Michigan hoodie or a sweatshirt. We're Michigan fans. Right. This isn't fandom coming out. I really think that the Big Ten did their investigation, didn't find any ties to Harbaugh. The NCAA, with everything Harbaugh did to basically stick it to the NCAA with transfer portal, with revenue sharing, with the satellite camps way back in the day, the NCAA would have done anything to strip this title from Jim Harbaugh. I really just don't think they found anything concrete. There obviously was some gray area, some rule bending. The advanced scouting went too far. Yes, I think we all can admit that. But to flat out say cheating, comparing them to the Black Sox, comparing them to, gambling on the game like Pete Rose was accused of and everything, the steroid era, flat out cheating, I just don't think they found it. Because if they would have found it, to me, if they would have found concrete cheating, Jim Harbaugh and his staff, Michigan program, knew of this, they were cheating the game, the title would have been stripped. I mean, they've done it before. They took a title from Louisville basketball. USC football has titles vacated or wins vacated. Ohio State has wins vacated. So I'm just trying to say, I think the NCAA did everything they could to bring that hammer, and they didn't find anything concrete enough to take the title away. It is what it is. I mean, rules were bent, but the rules were very gray to begin with. And Connor Stallions he took it to a level that no one ever had before.
We've talked about it ad nauseum. That's what's so crazy about this damn thing. It's a never-ending story. And even Michigan is appealing this. Like, for the love of God, just let it end. Let it end. I know you guys probably could appeal it, get some of the money back. I understand why they're doing it. But it's like, for the love of God, just let it end. And then even the NCAA suspending Sharon for a game next year. It's like, just throw it on the first game this year. It's like, just let's be done with this goddamn thing. But like I was saying, they ruined their whole case because, like, I think about the Houston Astros and how I view the Houston Astros cheating scandal different than Michigan, when really I shouldn't. The Houston Astros news came out after they'd won the World Series, and we don't know enough to say, oh, they wouldn't have won it with it, they wouldn't have won it without it, or they would have won it without it. We don't know that. We saw that with Michigan. This broke mid-season before they played Penn State, before they played Ohio State, before they played Bama, before they won the championship against Washington. We saw that it had no metric to causing them to win or lose. It definitely helped them a little bit for sure, but we saw that it didn't keep them from being a national championship team. Whereas if this would have broke after the season, I couldn't have defended it and said it didn't have anything to do with it. I mean, you look at the numbers, it's kind of ironic how it lined up. It turns out we actually had a good team and finally got over the hump. We had Hutchinson. We had these amazing players. But it's like as soon as Connor Stallions came in, it's like, oh, we started winning Big Ten titles. We started winning all these damn games. As an objective viewer, without the reality of what happened where it broke mid-season where we didn't have Stallions the rest of that year, I could have saw a case where it's like, dude, this lined up perfectly. Why else did they all of a sudden turn good? We remember what it felt like losing to Ohio State however many straight years. It felt like we never, ever were going to beat them. All of a sudden, we beat them when Connor Stallions joined. So I could have saw how it could have been spun where it could have led to, postseason ban and vacated wins. But because of how it played out and when it played out, there was no way that anybody with a logical brain could say that was all because of what Connor Stallions did. Did it have a small part? Probably. But no, this was a damn good team that for the most part, did it the right way and did what a lot of other schools do as well. Maybe Connor Stallions just was the freaking best at it.
Well, you said it perfectly. It started midway through the season, and then without the scrutiny of the sign stealing, they still kicked ass and won the national championship. So you can't take that away from them. You do look back at those 2.5 years, and you do wonder, well, how much did that play a factor into the big wins that they had? Who knows? But it had to be important, right? Because why were they doing it otherwise? But they did it better than anybody else. They had Connor Stallions. The thing to me, and I've said this many times, it goes politically, criminology. It's always the cover-up that gets you. You know, the big story was, well, they deleted stuff off their computers. They deleted stuff off their phones. Wouldn't you be curious to know what was really on there?
But here's why you have to do that. And I remember from back in the day, thinking as a little kid, Deflategate happened. They wanted Tom Brady's phone. He destroyed his phone.
Sure.
And I think the John Gruden thing. The John Gruden thing had nothing to even do with John Gruden. They just saw these emails because of some other investigation. Oh, we're going to fire now, John Gruden. You're done. Mm-hmm. You never give up that information, no matter what. That's like if I got subpoenaed or FOIA'd for my phone, I'm trashing this thing the first second I get. That's just the reality of that situation. So I understand why it makes it look like you're guilty. That's just how you have to do it, man. That's the sad reality of how this stuff works.
I get that. Find you something. That's a good point. I mean, I get that. You got to do that. Now, here's Harbaugh. He's never going to probably come back to college football anyway, but 14 years, that's a long time. Right. But don't you – this is me speaking as a Michigan fan. I'm never going to give up that national championship. They won it fair and square as far as I'm concerned. But aren't you guys kind of bummed out that they always have to have that in their legacy? This discussion about the sanctions – that championship year, wouldn't it be so much sweeter, or is it sweeter the way it is?
I mean, I almost think it's a little sweeter the way it is as a fan because like you guys kind of said, you know, the suspension and everything kind of came out mid-season. Plenty of teams had a chance to really put an end to it. Ryan Day did, you know, Alabama, Nick Saban did, you know, obviously in the title game. And then even, you know, Ryan Day could have last year, you know, when Sharon Moore was the coach and Michigan went into Columbus and beat them. And Ohio State ended up winning the national title. But I just think like that kind of puts even more of an emphasis on how good the team was. You know, had all this, like you said, Jared, had all this came out after the title, I think it would have really been like, oh man, you know,
there would be no way to know how much it impacted it. He said, she said type thing.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, since they were able to continue the season and win those games, they won 2 games without Harbaugh on the sidelines, you know, that season. So, you know, and I think it's one of those things too. And honestly, and I've said this on Twitter a couple of times to some people, and I'm not trying to act like I know the whole pulse of the country, but you know, I'm in a different state. You know, you guys are still right in the heart of Michigan State. So, you know, you guys, Spartan fan, Michigan fans, you know, right on your street, in your workplaces, all that kind of stuff. Honestly, my workplace, where I'm probably one of 2 or 3 Michigan fans, everyone else is fans of different schools, came from different schools, different states, all over. I work on shows that callers are calling in from SEC, ACC. Honestly, the majority of people do not care about this one bit. You know, I think 2 or 3 fan bases are never going to give it up. Kind of to your point, Ted, I think they will never give Michigan 100% credit for that national title.
Yep.
Most people really do not care. Now, like if you got in a discussion with them and wanted to get their feelings, maybe they would be like, you know, the signs and whatever. But like big picture, people saw Michigan. They see all the draft picks. Those teams were just stacked also. The NFL draft the last couple of years has been loaded with Michigan players. You know, Jim Harbaugh, obviously a great coach. So honestly, I think overall people, you know, 5, 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be, you know, sure, it's always going to be a little footnote for sure. But no, I think people will move on.
I don't think people hear it. It's almost like something like I don't think people who are educated on the situation. I think most Michigan State fans and most, Ohio State fans realize what happened. And how, again, I've harped on it, but how it played out. And the ones who are speaking out against it and, you know, asking for the title to be taken away and postseason ban and all this crap, those are the trolls. Those are the idiots. Those are the jackasses doing it for clips. I love Mike Valeni. He has a funny thing where he's like, okay, well, what about the Blake Corum and, you know, Connor Stallions LLC? Like he's ineligible. here's the thing, and this is ironic because with the John Mateer like gambling stuff that's been breaking this week, sometimes I just look at it and go, who genuinely cares? if Blake Corum and Connor Stallions had a little vacuum LLC business, who is it really harming? Who gives a shit? If John Mateer is gambling on some random USC versus UCLA, as long as it's not his own games, who cares? Like, yeah, maybe it's against the rules, and I guess I can understand the rules are rules, but genuinely, who cares? We've done our goddamn penance for this thing. It's a never-ending story. It's hopefully, goddamn done. The Michigan is, of course, appealing it, so it's not done yet. Right. The only thing that I noticed that's kind of a big difference between what we did with Harbaugh and what's going on with the Sharon Moore suspensions. Sharon Moore will not be allowed to be around the team like throughout the week, like at practice, like Jim Harbaugh was able to. He wasn't able to be there on game days. If you remember, like, wasn't it the Penn State game where he flew on the plane, didn't know what, basically, like, is he coaching or is he not? Right. So that's the one bummer with these bans for Sharon Moore, which week 4 against Nebraska, that could be a 3-0 versus 3-0 matchup, which could be big time. He will not be able to be around the team for those 2 straight weeks. So that's a big deal. But overall, just glad we're seemingly past it. No vacated wins, no postseason ban. That was the big thing I was worried about. Are they going to do a postseason ban this year and ruin the season before it even starts? I'm glad they didn't. The NCAA really has no balls anymore, just with the whole reality of where the whole sport is heading and everything. It's SEC and the Big Ten seemingly have all the power. So I'm glad that it was a reasonable suspension and, just a fine, which who really even cares?
Yeah. Part of like you brought up Valenti and the whole Blake Corum thing, and part of the explanation of no vacated wins, no strip title, is that Michigan wasn't playing ineligible players. That's one of the things where the NCAA said with Louisville basketball, with Ohio State, with the whole tattoo thing, and some other schools that have had wins and titles vacated. It's because they were playing ineligible players. So that's like you're playing, players that shouldn't have even been on the court or the field. And that's just not the case here. This whole thing is, if you think they were cheating to get wins, all the players were eligible. So that's where the people that are trying to make the Blake Corum thing, they're trying to say like he should have been ineligible because he had this business with a coach and, all this other weird stuff. So Blake Corum should have been an ineligible player. That should justify the vacated wins and stuff. And there's just no tie. I mean, there's been investigations into that, and there's been no, even like the IRS was in, and there's no payment. There's nothing there. This was all just a lot of, garbage, basically internet type stuff. So, and I just always think, and people don't like, when you bring up this like kind of argument, I guess, if you want to use it as an argument, but it's like, listen, if you want to say that Michigan cheated, okay. I mean, but one, that's, I guess, your opinion, that's fine. But how many schools and programs throughout the history of college football has been bending the rules, breaking the rules, whether it's with recruiting, whether it's with grades, calling these guys student athletes, whether it's, whatever you want to say. I mean, to an extent, every program cheats or does something, bends some rules to some level. You know what I mean? So like, if you're going to grandstand and, like get on your soapbox about Michigan, whoever you're a fan of is probably doing something similar too behind the scenes.
Yeah, like throw stones.
Right. Exactly. I've heard some, people in the SEC who are Georgia fans, who are Alabama fans, take shots at Michigan. I'm like, listen, Georgia football, Alabama football, I don't think you have anything to stand on right now. So yeah.
So the one saving grace of this whole scandal is they finally got microphones in the helmets, and we don't have to see these stupid signs on the sideline. So they're trying to figure it out. So they finally got in the real world there. All right, guys, let's take another short break, and we'll come back and start our interviews. We'll start off with Bill Hobson of Michigan Golf Live right after this.
All right, we are now joined by Bill Hobson, the executive producer and host of Michigan Golf Live and the Four Golfers Network. I mean, I talked a little bit to you before the show. I absolutely love your show. I'm a big-time golfer. My favorite tradition is usually Sunday mornings with my cup of coffee is when I love to watch your show. So this is a special treat to have you on the show. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys reaching out. It's always fun to talk about this weird journey that a golf show has led me on for 26 years. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I didn't realize, like, because so I was born in 1999. I didn't realize, like, it's just always been a thing.
That's why we started life. Yeah, we started it in your honor mostly.
So when I was doing a little bit of research, I didn't realize that it kind of started as a 1 hour radio show. and it's obviously become what it is now. For some of our listeners who maybe aren't very familiar with Michigan Golf Live, which maybe there are some, maybe there aren't, can you maybe take us back to the 1999 and the start of this whole entire thing and how it became what it is?
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in broadcasting. When I was a little boy, my dad's Ford dealerships had TV commercials, and my sister and I were in them. They were horrendous. We really, really hope the tapes never surface. But
Ted might have them. I mean,
well, yeah, he probably does, but I don't want to see him. But that's kind of what got me intrigued by this whole concept of storytelling. And again, they were bad commercials, but it really flipped a little switch inside of me to the point where when I was 17 or so, my dad was getting ready to retire from the dealerships, and he asked me if I wanted them. I'm like, I'm still in high school. I don't even know what that means. But he was such a great, and still is, a great supporter of everything that I do. He wasn't upset. He began to lend support. He was my cheerleader, and he helped open up doors into radio internships and things like that way back in the day. So fast forward several years, and I am working at the Fox TV affiliate in Flint. Been there, I don't know, at that point, 9 or 10 years, I guess.
Fox 66.
I had this, Fox 66. I had this idea for a radio show that I thought could be entertaining. And I explained it to my wife, and she had two questions. Number one, do you think we'll go broke? And number two, do you think you'll get free golf? And I said, well, I'm feeling pretty good about number two. That part's not that difficult. And I think we have a chance here to make this work. So I placed calls to radio station general managers, some of whom I knew, some of whom I didn't, and asked if they would be willing on a Saturday morning to take a show for an hour that was all dedicated to golf destinations. We weren't going to talk about my game. Who wants to listen to that on the radio? But just tell stories, people, and events and places. And thankfully, on 5 stations that are probably the same signal strength as you yelling out your window, that's kind of how we got started. And I made a call to, at that time, the marketing director of the Buick Open. His name is PJ Danhoff. We're still connected. I said, PJ, you don't know me. I don't know you. I have an idea. And I would like to have the Buick Open be my title sponsor because I need somebody to cover the cost of my satellite uplink every week. Now, we are going back in time, kids. You know, getting a show somewhere wasn't like getting on StreamYard like we are now. It was difficult. We had to have satellite time. Every station had to have receivers. And so I said to PJ, I'll tell you what, if you'll do it, I will never raise the price of your title sponsorship, no matter how long it is. I said the first couple of years, that's probably not a great deal for you, but I think after that becomes a pretty good deal. And for whatever, probably because it wasn't that much money to him, he's like, we're in. And that began the relationship. That got the radio show off the ground. And we stretched it to 2 hours just a few years later. And then we added our television show 5 or 6 years into that radio run, and we've just been super blessed ever since. So that's the Cliff Notes version of a pretty fun journey.
How much of where you are now, how much you think of is that from you being entertaining and going to these different golf places? And how much of it is just you kind of like being a hustler? It almost sounds like with even your sales pitch to the Buick Open. It's like I've never heard of that, but it makes a lot of sense betting on yourself. How much of it is just you putting the work in? And how much is it maybe the idea, if that makes sense?
Well, you know, I'm very careful about using the word work because anybody who knows what we do is like, oh, yeah, that's right. I have friends with real jobs. In fact, I often tell members of the media, golf media, who can complain about anything. Oh, the free food's no good today. I'm like, guys, listen, I have too many friends with real jobs to hear you act like a 4th grader. So just stop it. But to answer your question, Jared, it's a combination of really hustling and developing relationships, because back in the early days, I would make phone calls to places that obviously had never heard of us because we were just starting out, and trying to explain to them how I think this could benefit their bottom line. But it was all conjecture at that time. I'm guessing, and I wasn't charging that much. And so, in fact, you guys might be interested in this. 26 years in, we still charge the same amount to come and do our 2-hour live radio show on site as we charged 20 years ago.
That's
It's
cool.
crazy. but I don't have to pay for satellite time anymore, and we do things more efficiently. But
Right.
So part of it is just that hustle and the creative side of partnership building. And in 26 years, we've never done thick contracts with all the signatures. It's like a handshake deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're going to do what we tell you we're going to do. And if we don't, please let me know and we'll make it right. And in 26 years, I've only been burned 2 times by clients that didn't pay their bills. And they will remain nameless. But one was in year 1 and the other one was just a couple of years later. And by now they'll have to account for that. I'm fine.
So what you mentioned, I'm sorry, I got one more question. Then
yeah, go ahead.
What goes into your shoots out on location at these golf courses? Usually you'll stop at, maybe a local restaurant or something to do in the area as well. From start to finish, what is that process like putting together these episodes?
They're fun, but they're long days. A few years ago, we donated an auction item to a charity over in Grand Rapids, and it was to be a member of our crew for a day. So some lady bought it for her husband. And so we had arranged for him to have a hotel room, and he was going to meet us at that golf course the next morning and be a part of the crew. I'd never met the guy. I get out of the car in the parking lot, and there's this guy standing there with his soft spikes on and his bag over his shoulder. He's like, "Let's go play." And I said, "Oh, no." And I pointed to my production director, Greg. He's been the same production director for every show we've ever done, Greg Hall. And I said, "That's your boss today. You're going to have a great day, but you don't need your clubs." So what happens is we come in to tell a story that has everything to do with the destination for the golfer and for the non-golfing spouse. That's our goal. Because everything you see, we want to appeal to both decision makers in the household, which is why you'll see me doing goofy things like being on a zip line or in a spa with mud on my face or whatever. And of course, I think we're fairly well known for eating far too much food. So last week we shot a brand new show at Arcadia Bluffs. It'll air next weekend to showcase their new course called The Dozen, 12-hole course that's added now to the Bluffs and the South Course. And at each of the 3 courses, since they each have their own story, we also did a culinary feature at each one. What does that look like in actual production terms? Well, in the show, it looks like a natural flow. Oh, he's at the Bluffs. Here's fine dining. He's at the South. Here's more casual dining. He's at the Dozen. Here's a unique menu there. What it was like in real life was we shot the fine dining and the casual dining 30 minutes apart, and none of us could move after we cleaned off both tables. So, but the normal pattern is probably about 2 days of shooting for a 28-minute show. And especially if we're in a region like a Brighton Howell area, or Ann Arbor, or Traverse City, or Gaylord, because we're hopping all over the place. And I give one piece of advice to every one of my on-camera playing partners. Hold your pose. Hit the shot, hold your pose. They look at me like, what are you talking about? I go, the ball's going to end up somewhere good on the next shot. Just relax. It's TV golf. And people probably have a misperception that I'm better than I look on TV, but that's kind of the process. And then it takes about 2 weeks to do all the editing, get the approval of the destination, and then send it to our FanDuel Sports partners a few days in advance of its airtime.
That's very cool. I have a 2-parter. The first part is really a hardball, controversial one.
Sure.
Happy Gilmore 2. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I saw the tweets, so I think I know the answer to this.
Here's the weird part. I'll give it thumbs up just for the humor and the cameos of all the guys. Were pretty well done.
Right.
Oddly enough, the worst part, the absolute 0 rating part of that whole thing was the actual golf. It was horrendous. Yeah. And I actually thought it would be the opposite. I thought that they would nail the golf stuff because they had all these pros coming in.
Pros.
Sure.
That part was too comic book for me. Let's put it this way. I don't think that on Academy Award night that Adam Sandler needs to clear his schedule.
I think you're right.
It delivered exactly what I thought it was going to be. I didn't have my wife watch it because she would have been gone in 7 minutes, if that long. I was at a hotel somewhere and I watched it, and I laughed a couple times, and that's really all you can ask for. So
now the more serious question, you talked a little bit about your journey into your show about golf. but you started before that. You know, we talked off air about Great Lakes Prep Roundup when you were a youngster in starting out in radio covering high school sports. Tell us a little bit of your journey, where you began before you got into the golf game.
Oh man. Yeah. And I'll try to keep it less than an hour in the answer. My father, through his Ford dealership, and when he knew that I wanted to be in broadcasting, advertising agencies would come to him and they'd want to keep Mr. Hobson happy. Right. What can we do for you? And one of his answers was, my son here wants to be in radio and TV. Could you get him an internship? So they would finagle things. And I began an internship for a radio station that used to be in Flint called WTAC. It was a powerhouse back in its day.
Yeah.
And there was a legendary sportscaster there by the name of Pete Sark, who's in the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. And my first time meeting this very kind man, he says to me, how would you like to be my Pistons correspondent? I didn't know what that meant, but he said, you're going to take this recorder and you're going to go to every Pistons home game all season long and then do a report post game for me to use. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I started at the Silverdome. I ended at the Palace. I was in the locker room with the bad boy era. I was on the road for the championship runs, and I'm like 18, 19 years old. So while my friends were all doing normal things in their teenage years, I was interviewing, you know, Lambeer and Rodman and Joe and Isaiah. And it was really just surreal.
Yeah.
That leads into, in college, I went to Michigan. I get a job at the Fox affiliate in Flint. While I'm there, I'm working 40 hours a week at the TV station. Every day at 5 o'clock, I was hosting a 1-hour general sports talk show on WTRX called Bill Overdue. I know, very creative. They have like the same 4 callers every day. And it was Linda from Flint and Bob from Bay City. I still remember that. So I'm doing that. Then I begin doing color commentary for Saginaw Valley State University football on Saturdays and hosting the coaches show on Thursdays and doing high school football play-by-play on Fridays for a tiny radio station in Frankenmuth. The tiny radio station wasn't on the air. They provided the audio for a local TV access channel. You know the channels that we used to have that had like events on them, words, just words.
Right. Oh yeah.
Boy Scout Troop 403 has a spaghetti dinner. Well, I was the audio for that channel, calling these games. I'm sitting in the stands with a bag cell phone that used to cost 35 cents a minute and a program like this while I'm calling the action for players. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm getting all these reps in and starting to learn, and could do it without anybody listening. I'll if you have time, I'll tell you a funny story about that. But yeah. I began at basketball games because they did football, basketball, baseball, and softball. I did all of it. Wow. Because in Frankenmuth, if they went to a business and said, would you sponsor the local team? They're like, yes, we would. So they sold out everything. It was crazy. And they paid me probably more than I made for SVSU games. So I began sneaking in my friends to be my color commentator and having them pretend to be famous athletes. So my nephew Weston, who played high school ball, I had him as a famous player from the CBA's Albany Patroons, and I would imitate Ernie Harwell with that ball was that ball. Oh, I look across the gym and I see, you know, this guy from, and I name his city where he's from, like Ernie used to do. And the ultimate test of whether or not anybody was listening. Remember, I was still working at Fox and doing all these other things. Right. Well, at Fox, we would often receive promotional items for movies and shows, and that was my department. Mm-hmm. So I started doing contests on the air to give things away. Yeah. And one game, I said, we're going to give this to the third caller. I give the number, go on with the game. First commercial break, I talk to the guy back in the studio. His name is Chip. I go, Chip, who's our winner? I'll let you know.
No one's called yet.
This happens in the entire first half. We get to halftime, and I go, during a break, I go, hey, Chip, we have a winner yet? He goes, I said I'd let you know. We come back in the third quarter. I go, we're going to do this for the first caller to the same. I never gave the prize away, which is what reminded me that lest I get a little too important in my own head. There's literally no. But what a great proving ground and a testing ground for developing communication abilities.
Sure.
Sorry to go on so long, but that's
it's all right.
That's the background that leads into all of this. And my motto in all of my professional life is, in fact, I think it's on my Hobson Media sign behind me. It's "We tell your story."
Mm-hmm.
Every entity, whether it's commercial or nonprofit, or it's a ministry, or it's a sporting event, or it's a golf destination, they all have a story. And most of them are really good at what they do, but they're not as good at actually packaging it into a comprehensive story. And I think that's one of the things that we've done fairly well over the years. And that's kind of what's kept us around, is we're storytellers. Nobody's watching my show to keep my score.
Right.
They're watching it to see where we're going in the scenery and whether they want to go there. And so that's the story that we keep trying to tell.
Yep. Well, you obviously are very good at it. You've been doing it a long time, and you've got the voice too. I mean, you've got the voice for it. Ted, I don't know if we said it. Ted did radio play-by-play for over 30 years. Jared and I also both work in the media industry. So hearing stories like that, that's right up our alley. I mean,
100%.
I started in local news, and I guess worked my way up. Jared started at actually the same local news station that I worked at. So
Yep.
Everything you just said, I think we all are right on par with everything you said. No pun intended. We're talking about golf. Question I was going to have for you. The three of us also grew up in the same hometown, a small town in mid-Michigan. That's kind of how we all know each other. Well, the two over there, they're family also.
We're related. Yeah.
They're related. But yeah, we grew up in the same small town in mid-Michigan. And
what is it?
Corona.
Oh, I'm a Clio guy. So, okay. We're with you.
You know that.
That's why we know Fox 66 also. I mean,
right.
So, yeah, you know about Corona.
I used to be the voice there. You may be a little young, but anytime you would hear weeknights at 7 on Fox 66, I just recorded all these tags and did everything. And there was a guy in my church one Sunday. He was not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I see him at church. He goes, "I just listened to you at home. How are you here?" I'm like,
the magic of television.
We record things. I'm not sitting in a booth 24/7
all day. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like this podcast is not live right now. If people are listening to it tomorrow, next week, whatever, it's not live. But yeah, so that's really cool. We have that connection. But my question was going to be, so a few years ago, actually, it's been a number of years ago, a little in our hometown, a local 9-hole golf course closed. I actually worked at it for a summer in college. I cut some greens and I did all the, trimming and stuff like that. That was maybe 10 years ago or so. Chippewa Hills closed.
Yeah.
Ted would remember better than me.
Mm-hmm.
Another course, Corona Hills, actually is on its way to closing, or it is about to be closed. And I wanted to ask you about maybe the rise in popularity of golf, and if you have a concern with, obviously the industry is growing. People got to make money, and the resorts and the courses have to make money. But we're seeing some of these little local, nice, fun 9-hole, you could spend $20-$30 go, maybe it's not going to be the nicest greens and stuff like that you're ever going to play, but it's just a cool local vibe. Your friends are going to be there. You need those courses for the beginners anyway, or for the people that aren't, trying to make the PGA. But you also want to have the nice courses like Arcadia and, some of the other ones that obviously you've been at. Is there a balance, or are you kind of worried that, with the rise in popularity, especially in Michigan no longer is like a hidden gem for golfing, in the country? Do you think there's a concern with losing a balance? And I'll end that with, so I now live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And people down here, golf is huge. Year round, North and South Carolina. But one criticism in Charlotte, or the greater Charlotte area, ton of golf. It's mainly all private, though. There's not very many public courses. It's country clubs, private. You have to know someone to get on the course. And people say that that's a little bit of a frustration. So do you see that trending that way in Michigan with some of those smaller public courses closing? Or do you think there's still a good balance?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's got a lot of layers to it. So let me start with the first part. I absolutely adore the mom and pop golf courses and their operators. We did a TV special, a 2-part special a few years ago called the Top 10 Under $50 Courses in the State. And they continue to be the most commented episodes that we've done, commented on episodes that we've done. You'd think it would be the Arcadias and the Grand Traverse Resort, but people so connected to those, and they were beautiful. I could not believe that these courses were under $50. Well, since then, the cost of chemicals, the cost of gas, the cost of everything has made it really tough for the mom and pop operators to stay at that price point without literally operating at a loss. Mm-hmm. The demand for tee times is massive after COVID. COVID was fantastic for golf. It wasn't great for anything else, but it was really good for golf. And it brought people back to the game, or it brought people into the game because they wanted to get outside and do something. And so that demand continues. And for some reason, some of the local courses that are the ones that, I grew up on Vienna Greens and Clio and those kind of things, they're really struggling. They don't have the profits coming from food and beverage. They're not selling many memberships, or if they do, it's a couple $100 a year. It's really tough to make a go of it, especially if it's time for a generational change in leadership. Right. So what happens, I don't know the Corona situation, but most likely whoever had it had been running it for 30 plus years, had full relationships with everybody in town. But at some point you just get stinking tired. I don't know if people realize the demand, just the sheer hours and the toil that it is to operate a golf course. It's entirely possible that they said, we got to slow down. Let's see if the kids or the grandkids have an interest in taking, and maybe they didn't. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately also, there's a pretty pressing demand for housing and for real estate. And if somebody comes to those operators and says, we got to put in a 120 unit subdivision here, and we'll give you, $4 million for your property, they're probably going to be out. So
tough to turn down.
It is sad to see. Now, your question about private public, because of the demand for tee times, and I think another positive is that families are trying to find ways to spend more time together as a unit. So private clubs have started to get smart. Instead of being super stuffy and exclusive, and you keep your kids at home, and this is the men's room, and this is the women's grill, they can come on Monday. They've begun to develop into family destinations. A really good example of that is Warwick Hills and Grand Blanc, or Walnut Creek and South Line. These places are understanding. Mom and dad have been desperately seeking a place where the kids will leave the tablets behind and go swim, and go play tennis or pickleball and go golf, and they can do it together. So that's actually bringing about a surge in private club memberships. Oh, by the way, plus you're also guaranteed a tee time.
Right.
So we do a little bit of everything at Michigan Golf Live. We've begun getting more and more calls from private clubs about doing a television show. So we did a couple. Walnut Creek's a good example. We aired it last year, and I began getting barraged with people. How dare you go and do it? Why would you put that on TV? And why would you? I said, because private clubs are a vital part of our ecosystem in golf. You don't have to join, but some want to. And it's kind of a delicate balance to walk.
Right.
I have one quick question, or I actually have two. First one I'll ask is, I view you honestly as like kind of the czar of Michigan golf. So I was happy to see that you also love a course that I love as well. We go camping every year at the UAW campground at Black Lake. Yeah. You talk about how much you love Black Lake. What is it about that course that you appreciate so much? It seems a little bit underrated to me.
It is. Well, it's hard to get to, right? It takes you a while to get out there. But Reese Jones, you take that course and put it in a population center, and that will be the number 1 rated course in the area. What he did there in that secluded property is just amazing. And it feels like Hazeltine. It feels like some of the more popular, like PGA championship venues, thinking of Valhalla and all those different settings. If that was in any way accessible to large crowds, it would be a major championship venue. It's that good. And because it's where it is, it's also still part of an affordable package. And they used to be a little exclusionary there if you weren't a UAW member. And then my friend Nick, who ran as the GM there for several years, he came in and changed the culture. They want you there. You don't have to be a member of anything. And I highly recommend, if you're ever up at I-75 at exit 310 and you've got a half-hour drive to a great course, that's the one. That's where I'd send you.
And then we were just up there camping, like I mentioned, and I actually went and played the Jewel on Mackinac Island. I mean, flat out, how much fun do you have doing that episode every year at the Grand Hotel?
Yeah, we did a bunch of them. We hosted groups there for 20 plus years. The new ownership has come in and they decided to stop that package. So I haven't been there this summer, but I would venture to say, I think I can say this without exaggerating, I may have hit more tee shots on the 7th hole than anybody in the history of Grand Hotel, because I'd stand up there for our groups and hit shots with every group that came through. It's so fun. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's part of an experience that you're just not going to get anywhere else. You drive a horse-drawn carriage from the first 9 to the back 9, but just where else does that happen? And
right.
So yeah, Mackinac is a special place. And on the island up by the airport is also the second oldest golf course in the state, which is Wawashkamo.
Yep.
And such an unusual setting because it's a former battlefield. And there are areas that are sectioned off. They're burial grounds. So you could hit a slice on number, it was 1 or 2. You hit a slice, you can't go get your ball because it's hallowed, sacred ground. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So you say hit a slice, that would be me, because that's all I do is hit a slice.
We can fix it. We can fix that. We just need 20 minutes on the range. We can fix that, I promise.
Yeah, I have a number of friends who have tried to fix and they've given up on me. And I just go along for the ride. I still enjoy to play casually though. Sure. So you mentioned some of your favorite courses and some really great resorts in Michigan. Obviously there's PGA events in Detroit. There's LPGA events in Michigan. People always talk about, man, it'd be really cool if there was a PGA event in Northern Michigan or, some other courses around Michigan. What do you think? I mean, obviously I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but what would it take to get, is it mainly the logistics, hotels, airports, all that kind of stuff? What would it take to get a PGA event outside of Southeastern Michigan, somewhere else? And then if that happened, what would be your this is the one. This would be the one that could do it.
Well, the most logical secondary choice would be Traverse City somewhere, and there's lots of courses there that could host it, including the private High Point, which is ridiculously spectacular. But again, you're dealing with market size and infrastructure. The PGA Tour itself is it's in a weird place right now as they are pressured to continually increase their purses. They've got to go to sponsors with major demands. I mean, I don't know how long Rocket's going to keep going with their sponsorship in Detroit at $20 million a year. That's just a massive number. There's no way you can justify that instant return on your investment. So, but you get to a place like Traverse City or maybe over to Grand Rapids where you do have the capacity for housing and to get fans that would gather and you can get them around the course and that kind of thing. I used to joke with some of my friends at the PGA about, guys, go hold a tournament at Arcadia or at Kingsley Club or somewhere like that. And they're like, where would anybody stay? And, and by the way, those courses, they don't want to give up their courses for 3 weeks at a time. They're doing pretty well. So several years ago, I don't know if you guys remember, but the Three Tops course at Treetops hosted the shootout on ESPN. And it would be, it'd be Phil, Jack was there, Trevino was there, Lee Jansen. I mean, they had some big names there. They still have the pictures up in the clubhouse. That's probably the closest that we will get is some sort of an exhibition, maybe at Bay Harbor at some point or something. But you're not going to get a full field event up north. You're not going to go any further north, really. I don't think you'll be back at Grand Blanc. We have the Champions Tour this week at the Allied Challenge. That's about as far north as we'll see the tours.
Bill, I got one final one for you. You've obviously golfed most of the classic courses in Michigan, but if you were looking worldwide, St. Andrews, Augusta, Pebble Beach, where would you really like to go and do around? Number one.
Augusta's on the top of everybody's bucket list. I've learned over the years that they're doing okay without me, but I haven't given up complete hope. There's so many.
Have you ever been to Augusta?
I've been to the Masters a few times.
Nice.
It's funny. I have a 26-year tradition going of not being approved for media credentials. I have a tradition unlike any other. But in 2016, which seems like yesterday when I relive it, I have a picture on the other side of my studio. My son and I were the recipients of some incredible kindness and generosity. As a gentleman who had clubhouse badges gave us his 2 clubhouse badges for the Thursday round.
Wow.
Another friend of mine who worked for CBS knew that we were coming, and he met us on the putting green, and he said, "Would you guys like to go somewhere where you can't go?" I'm like, "Yes, we would." And so ironically, he took us first into the media center, which I'd been, not able to go into. So I took a couple pictures in there with his phone. I couldn't have a phone. And then he says, "How about we go check out Butler Cabin?" It's like, I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah, we go to Butler Cabin." So there's a back entrance. What you see on TV is the basement of Butler Cabin. It's got a fireplace, and that's where the TV studio is. Upstairs, people sleep. It's a cabin. Very small downstairs. I would estimate the rooms maybe 25 by 30 or something like that. It's full of equipment, but you have the 2 chairs set up in front of the fireplace. And it just so happened that as we were in there, they had it lit up because they had just shot some sort of a feature with Jim Nantz and Nick Faldo. So the lights were still on. And my buddy says, "You guys want to get your pictures taken in the chair?"
Oh, man.
What? Yeah. My son, who at that time was turning 18, this was a surprise trip for his 18th birthday.
That's awesome.
He says to me, "What's going on?" I said, "Bo, I've seen a lot. I don't know what's going on. This is ridiculous." So it's about to get better. We take just, a couple steps towards the chairs, which were 10 feet away. And a producer comes in and he says, "Oh, hey, guys, can you just wait a minute? He's coming in." I'm like, "Yes, I don't know what that means, but obviously we can wait." So we step back for a minute, and the door we had just come in through opens, and Arnold Palmer walks in.
God.
The door to our right opens, and Jim Nantz walks in. While he's walking, he's retying his tie that he had taken off because Mr. Palmer had just requested this moment to do his farewell interview. He would die that September before Ryder Cup.
Right.
So now Bo and I are standing in this room just a few feet from the chairs, and Arnold's walking in. Jim Nantz is walking in, and the producer says, "Guys, this is going to be kind of a family moment. Would you mind stepping out? You can come back in. Would you mind stepping out?" Got it. So we go to the production truck, which is way across the par 3 course. My friend took us over there. He goes, "Let's go watch this interview." And in that production truck, the crew who'd been there forever, they're crying. They know this is it for Arnold.
Yeah.
And I said to Bo, "Next April, you're going to see an edited version of this as the farewell to Arnold. I guarantee it." And that's what happened the next April. But when he and Nantz finished, they did about 40 minutes together. Some of it was completely unusable, and Arnold did not look good that day. We went back in, and we got in the chairs, and my buddy, who had permission to have his phone with him,
Nice.
Look at that.
took the picture of Bo and I, which obviously is one of my fondest memories forever. And at the end of that day, and I tell this story, and every time I tell it, I get a little choked up, so forgive me. But at the end of that day, I said to my son, "Let's go shopping. Let's get you some stuff."
Right.
We got to go in the members pro shop, and then we went to the big one, which is like Walmart on Black Friday. It's just nuts.
Right.
I said, "Bo, we're never going to get back here in this capacity. We're never going to have a day like this again. Get yourself some stuff. I'll meet you at the checkout." So he's gone for when we meet at the checkout, he's got a hat for himself, a couple things for some friends. That's it. I go, no. It's okay.
Oh, no.
We'll load up. And he said, "I tried. I can't think of anything that would match what's happened today."
That's pretty cool.
That's
Great
pretty cool.
story.
And it all ties back to the kindness of 2 people. A gentleman named Dave, who gave us his clubhouse badges, passed away a short time later. And John, my friend from CBS, who now is the voice of the Phoenix Suns, who said, let me take you some places that nobody gets to go. All of that. I would love for me to have been able to open that door for my son. Somebody else did. And I'll never forget that act of kindness. And I try as best I can to pass that along. So sorry for the long story, but it's my favorite memory in all of golf.
That's awesome.
Story.
Your son's a better guy than me. I would have racked your tab up for like to $1,000 in that pro shop. I could buy so much stuff there. That's freaking awesome though. But
Most people do. Yeah.
We thank you for the time. Can you give our listeners maybe you mentioned a new episode you have coming out shortly at Arcadia Bluffs. Can you maybe tease some of the stuff you guys have coming soon for Michigan Golf Live and tell our listeners where to find it?
Sure. Our Michigan Golf Live TV show is on FanDuel Sports Detroit every Saturday and Sunday morning at 9:30. Our season ends the first week of September, but all of our shows are also available on our YouTube channel, Michigan Golf Live YouTube channel. We've also got a podcast we do every week called the Four Golfers Network. That's FORE, Golfers Network Podcast, and that's kind of the official podcast of Michigan Golf Live. In fact, I just got in trouble with this week's podcast from the Live Tour, so that ought to be fun. Threatening me, and
that's coming to town this week.
Yeah, and I have on my phone my credential confirmation, and then I also have on my phone my voicemail from them today telling me that they're probably going to revoke my credential.
Oh, jeez.
All because of an interview I did with one of their people. That is perfectly fine. So, if you guys really want to get into some controversy, we can spend another 30 minutes on this silliness. So
I thought the Live was supposed to be more laid back, like anti-PGA, like, none of that.
Yeah, well, they asked me if I would interview Pat Perez, player. Now he's one of their broadcasters. Pat is known for being bombastic,
for sure,
volatile, outspoken, unfiltered. Perfect. We had a great visit. One of the things I said to him was, yeah, Pat, I'm not a huge Live fan because of the source of the funding. It bothers me. Right. What do you do with that issue? He gave a great answer. Get done with the interview. It's 25 minutes long. After I'm done recording, he's like, that was cool, man. Hey, when you're at the tournament, make sure you stop by and say hi. Beautiful. Done. Published. Podcast is up. You can hear it now if you want to.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, I start getting bombarded by Live PR people instructing me to pull down the podcast, that Pat is livid. He can't believe that I would corner him and trap him and blah, blah.
Oh, wow.
Did I black out for a while here? What?
Yeah, right.
And so that was a couple days ago. And as recently as about an hour and a half ago, I got another, if you don't, kind of a threat. So we'll see how the next 24 hours play out. And my friends at all the major media outlets in the state of Michigan are asking me to let them know as well, because it could turn into some sizable story about the way that Live actually handles truth. And it wasn't even confrontational. It was
right.
Yep. So I'm not a clickbait guy. You guys have noticed that, right? I'm not.
Yeah.
Whatever. I told him to try the decaf.
Right.
Well, it's a freaking awesome teaser. I'm going to check it out.
I was going to say,
hopefully, if it gets taken down or not, I'll make sure to listen to it, whether it does or doesn't.
It's not getting taken down. I can tell you that. It's not going down. That's been the threat. And as I said to the lady today, my podcast neither causes cancer nor cures it. So why are you acting like it does both?
Right.
Just try the decaf and relax. This is fine.
That's insane.
Right. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe you guys want to come start my car for me for a couple of minutes.
That's what I'm saying. That's all. That's freaking awesome. I appreciate you, standing on it, and it is what it is. Like, exactly what you said. You're not out for clickbait or you're not, gotcha journalism, that type of stuff. So, no, I'll be checking it out. But again, thank you again, Bill, for joining us. We could talk to you for an hour, man. We didn't even get into a lot of other golf stuff that we will maybe somewhere down the road.
Anytime
you want to come back on.
All good.
Awesome.
Thanks again, Bill, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Are we now welcome on a very special guest, Matt Saunders from Last of the Fullbacks on Twitter, where he's amassed, big following from his entertaining educational page, talking all things football. But I got to start here. Simply put, what is so magical about the fullback position to you?
It's something to me. I started out playing fullback in Little League. Came up playing fullback, played a little bit of quarterback, but really by the time I got into my older years, I really transitioned over to kind of linebacker, fullback. In high school, did the same thing, played linebacker and fullback. And it's something about it was always about the mentality to me. You're just lining up and you're just hitting people. It's not hard. It's a pretty simple concept. And, it always struck with me that the physicality of the position. You're basically a offensive lineman in the backfield, a guard in the backfield, like my dad used to say growing up. And, you know, I've always loved that. And, you know, I always came from offenses that were the I formation, stuff like that. And we pounded the rock, man. Power, counter, fullback trap. You know, it's just kind of always been who I am. And, you know, it's always stuck with me. And then now as the games progressed and we've started spreading out, right, and you see less of the position, it's even more so a fraternity of some of the guys that did play the position, because the position was dying for a little while. You're starting to see it come back now, but you know, it's less and less. So it's just, there's a select few of people who even played the position, and especially nowadays, there's even fewer select people who play it now. So, you know, it's just one of those things. If you were a fullback, you always are a fullback.
Right.
You know, it's just kind of how it is.
You know, Matt, you're a younger guy. I go back way back. And I remember the Packer days with Jimmy Taylor, you know, and Paul Hornung, and then Donnie Anderson after him. But yeah, simple question to start it off with: who's your favorite fullback?
You know,
that's a loaded question, probably.
Yeah, favorite of all time to me. I came up when I was born in '95. I'm 30 years old. So to me, it was always like the Lorenzo Neals.
Lorenzo Neal, yeah.
Vontae Leach was a big one. I'm a Redskins, you know, Commanders fan, so Mike Sellers growing up was a big one. William Henderson, talking about the Packers. William Henderson went to my high school.
Oh, nice.
And you know, he was somebody I always looked up to. Of course, he went on. He was a stud especially I was a young kid. And then I guess he was inducted in the Packers Hall of Fame as well. And then another guy was Jason Snelling. He came up through L.C. Byrd High School. He went through Virginia, and then he played for the Falcons a little bit. And he played for my grandfather in high school. So, you know, between Henderson and Snelling, they were close to my heart just because of the proximity to my family. And then really, I think favorite of all time is probably Lorenzo Neal, and then Vontae Leach as well was a big one.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I grew up. So I'm an '80s baby. Grew up in the '90s. So I mean, the '90s there was. I mean, Mike Allstott is probably one of the best. I mean, the three of us are Lions fans. Corey Schlesinger. I mean, he was running over people at Nebraska. Yeah, he was running over people at Nebraska. Probably could have won a Heisman as a fullback / running back. And then he came to the Lions. I swear every game he was breaking a face mask when he was running over guys. So yeah, the fullback, I mean, it was guys like Allstott, Lorenzo Neal, tough, but they kind of played running back too. I mean, yes, they were a fullback, but they could carry the ball too. But like you said, the game has evolved, and you know, there for a while, the usage rate for fullbacks dropped. I mean, dramatically. I mean, there was a while where fullback was almost obsolete, but now it's kind of come back up. There are a lot of teams now using the fullback quite a bit. Yep. I mean, we're Michigan football fans, so like Max Bredesen and, you know, Michigan, obviously with, you know, Jim Harbaugh used the fullback quite a bit, and with Sharon Moore, they still do. Do you kind of see, obviously you just listed your favorite fullbacks that did dip, now it's coming back. Do you think that's because teams are kind of seeing like, hey, there is still value in having that lead blocker? You know, like you said, it's an extra lineman in the backfield. I mean, some teams literally put a lineman as a fullback. Do you kind of see it kind of coming back?
Yeah. I mean, especially you saw it last year in the playoffs, and you see it every year. The teams, I mean, y'all are kind of in Big Ten country up there. When it gets cold during, you know, November, December, January, the teams that can control the ball, they're going to win some games, and you see that. Like the Lions were very successful. Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame at the end of last year. Yeah. The teams that can control the ball, you get in cold weather. You get under center, especially under center. I'm a big time. I like to see the quarterback under center, turn his back to the defense. I think that does a lot, especially to your linebackers mixing up the reads. You got play action coming off that. You know, I think we're starting to go back to it just because we spread out for a little while. Linebackers got smaller. You started getting the hybrid safety into the box. So now we're kind of bulking back up. I mean, the Ravens, a good example. I know they haven't gone all the way yet, but you got a guy like Pat Ricard who's lining up. He's in that tight end position, H-back, fullback. That's a big load coming down on a hybrid safety trying to fill a hole. So, you know, eventually we'll probably get bigger as far as linebackers again, like the Brian Urlacher type guys, try to counteract it, and then we'll spread out again. But yeah, definitely kind of I'm liking what I'm seeing when we're getting more fullbacks in the game and more under center type stuff.
Especially. I mean, 49ers, Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, 49ers. I mean, he's almost there with McCaffrey out. He's one of their main players on offense.
Oh yep. And they cut him and then basically re-signed him not too long after that. And you got guys like Reggie Gilliam in the league. One of my favorites right now that he still hadn't quite broke out, but Hunter Luepke with the Cowboys. I'm waiting for him to have a big season. He's just multifaceted, kind of like a Kyle Juszczyk type guy, just a Swiss Army knife. So I'm excited where the league's headed for sure, no doubt about it. And then the guy out, Matlock out in I want to say San Diego, but the Chargers, Los Angeles. Yep. He's another Pat Ricard, chip off the old block, just lining up and knocking the teeth. Plays defensive tackle when he's not playing fullback. You got to love stuff like that. What can I do for the team? How can I help? And that's the fullback mentality all day long.
Jim Harbaugh classic, right there. What made you want to start this page? And how long was it until it really started to take off and become what it is now?
Yeah, I want to say it was back during COVID, kind of like everyone else's story. You're sitting up, cooped up in the house, ESPN and NFL Network, SEC Network, all they're doing these reruns of these 1980s, 1990s games, and I had a text thread with a few of my friends where I would cut up a film just like I do and put online. I'd take a clip of a play and send it to him, and I'd break down, hey, this is what I see, look at the footwork on the right guard, whatever it was. And eventually one of my buddies was like, hey man, you should like post this online. It's kind of cool. It's fun to talk about. I finally did. And, I kind of liked it at first with the last of the fullbacks with it being pretty anonymous. I kind of liked that, just kind of throwing stuff up there. And, day by day, it just kept growing, and I realized it was something that people like to see. I started establishing relationships with high school coaches, youth coaches. Then, I had college coaches jumping on there, and I've got guys all the way from the NFL down to just your average youth dad, and interacting with them all the time. I've learned more over the last whatever it's been 4 or 5 years. I've learned more. I realize now that I know nothing. I thought I knew a little bit, and the more I get into it, you just see guys who know so much about the game. I realize how little I know, and it's been humbling and fun to get to talk to these guys across the country. And even the ladies out there. There's a lot of girls out there who are in the football world, and man, you just learn a lot from everyone out there, and you got everyone at your fingertips as far as information wise. So it's been fun.
I had a kind of a similar revelation when I see clips that you've posted, or like an account like a Coach Dan Casey of video from the 1940s, 1950s football. Where when I think about it, I'm like, these guys suck. Like, they had no idea what they're doing. I watched some of the schemes and some of the trickeration and the wishbone type stuff, and I'm like, man, this would be kind of like groundbreaking today. It almost feels like. Do you have that same sort of revelation? Watch some of this old film, like, wow, like we should almost bring a lot of these concepts back.
Oh yeah. I mean, and then you see guys like Brennan Marion out. He's out at Sac State now with the go-go offense. And when you hear him talk about how he created that offense, there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, he was watching film, like you said, back from the 30s and 40s of single wing stuff that he based this offense off, and everyone's kind of mind blown, thinking, which it's a very cool offense. There's no doubt about it. But he'll tell you, there's nothing new really here. He's kind of formulated in his own way, and he's got some air raid concepts and stuff like that in it too. But the basis of the offense has been around since the beginning of time, and I think that's the cool thing, is that we go in these waves, and it's almost like this lost technology in football that all of a sudden you're starting to see glimpses of it here and there. And I never realized it. I mean, until the last few years. And like you said, you've got all these guys posting film, old film history, old football history. I can't remember his tag now, but he posts a lot of cool stuff too. He's got a website that I'd encourage everyone to go look at. I think it's historicfilm.wix.com or something like that. But I mean, just crazy footage that highlight real stuff from the 20s and 30s that, it's just awesome to go back and watch and see how the game's evolved and how the game's the same. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
You talk about going back in time, way back in time, as Matt says it, my time back in the 30s and 40s. But the greatest fullback name of all time has got to be Bronco Nagurski, doesn't it? Isn't that fullback every day, all day?
Larry Zonka, that type of thing.
Yeah, Zonka was my favorite of all time, and he was clutch for sure. But my question is, do you think we'll ever see the day in the NFL where you do have full-time fullbacks on the roster instead of the hybrids, which are a linebacker or a tight end, an H-back? Do you think they'll ever get back to true fullbacks?
Yeah, I think so. Again, because I think the game, it spread out and we got so light as far as weight classes, across different positions. I think at some point, I think we go back to it. I mean, again, you talk about the NFL playoffs last year. I made a post about it, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I want to say all but one team going into the playoffs last year had a fullback, or I'm going to say H-back, but some type of dedicated fullback position on the team. It wins games. And I'm not saying the fullback necessarily does. I encourage having a fullback, but the fact that running the football late in the season, there's something to that, being able to defend or run the ball and then basically time of possession. Keep the ball in the other team's hands. I mean, what's the way you beat Pat Mahomes? You keep the ball out of his hands. Look at the Eagles.
Right.
For sure.
He didn't. He wasn't on the field. So, of course, they had a great defense too, which helps. But
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, when it comes down to it, football's football, right? I mean, you line up, you smack each other's heads, and you got to tackle. I mean, you can do some crazy schemes and you can trick plays if you want to say it that way, but ultimately, time of possession, controlling the clock, not turning the ball over. I mean, that's what it comes down to. This is a little off the wall. You seem like someone, obviously understands and studies football, played yourself. I'm just curious. We've asked, whether it's coaches or players, other people we have on the podcast, a similar question. I'm just curious your thoughts. You talk about defensive linemen lining up and playing fullback, offensive linemen coming back and playing fullback. We've seen a lot of, it kind of went the trend where people were specializing in sports, playing only one sport. Now it's kind of going back the other way. People are playing 3-4 sports because they see the value. And like, if you're a wrestler, that translates on the football field. I'm just curious your thoughts on that. Do you think there's value in specializing, play one sport, or do you think, no, you should play multiple sports because those soccer skills could translate onto the football field, wrestling, stuff like that. I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I'm a big wrestling guy. I encourage especially all my kids, all the players. Hey, during the fall, if you're not in the weight room, go wrestle. I don't know how it is where y'all are here. You can't necessarily be in the weight room with football while on the wrestling team. So guys have to make a decision type thing. But I'm also somebody who, when you're in high school, particularly in high school, play all the sports. If you want to play a sport, go play it. You're only going to be in high school one time. Once it's over, it's over. And the likelihood of you going to the league, even getting a college scholarship is low. You're one play away from an injury in any sport, so I'm always a guy who, if someone, hey, I want to go play lacrosse, coach, I want to go do this, go do it, because this doesn't last forever. Someday you're going to have to clock into your 9 to 5 and go to work. And, I'm big on playing multiple sports just in general, but as far as, and from an athletic standpoint, it's hard. It's people who argue against it. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around telling a kid, how go play center field in baseball and then turn around and go be, a striker in soccer and then turn around and now you're playing football. You can't tell me from an athletic standpoint that is not beneficial to a kid. Right. I'm very big on just go play the sports, man. Go do them all.
We're talking high school sports, and it's ironic because that's initially how I found your page was last, right around Thanksgiving weekend. Was you posted some clips and cut-ups of Niles High School, right in the South Bend area here in Michigan. Where did you find that? Are you just like scouring the internet for high school teams and for stuff like that? Basically, what their offense was is they're running inside veer, which I ran inside veer in high school, so that's why I appreciated it. They're running inside veer out of I formation. They're running out of all these different types of formations. How did you find them? And do you just have like a film room that you like sit and watch this stuff? I like to imagine you sitting in a dark room all day, just cutting up high school football.
Yeah, the bat cave, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, I don't know. I don't know whether, I have so many, like you said, so many things that pop across my feed. I also have guys who just randomly send me stuff. So it's any given day I'm going through DMs, and it's a coach in West Virginia running the single wing, or it's a guy in California running this or that, So I don't remember exactly how I saw it, but I remember looking into it more. And the head coach, I saw an interview with him. I think it was after maybe the semifinal game. I don't think they had gone to state yet.
Yeah.
And I started looking more into it. And then, like you said, they're running veer out of I formation, which you don't see much anymore. Then they're getting into, I think, flex bone and maybe some split back. And, seeing the multiple formations was it's pretty freaking cool. I mean, it's right up my alley. It's all under center. And then I know a couple of guys who do. I know y'all are Michigan guys, or some of y'all are from Michigan. The power T, quote unquote, which is pretty cool. All those offenses up there, I'm just fascinated by, because down here in Virginia, you don't see a lot of that. Right now, you see mostly spread, kind of that power spread type thing. You see a little bit of I formation still, but as far as option football, you might see a little bit out of the gun, but it's not very big down in here, Virginia. You're getting more spread stuff. So getting under center, getting everybody in the box and just lining up and saying, I want you to try to stop me type thing. That's just right up my alley. Niles, somehow when it came across my page, I was all about it. I went down a rabbit hole.
I'm right with you. That's exactly what the type of stuff I love too. If you're looking for one to get into, maybe you've already done a deep dive on them. Zealand East, they just won the title this year. Wing T, old school. They're worth checking out. They just had a legendary coach who just retired this last year. If they won their state title. Similar vein, we're both cut from somewhat the same cloth. You're a lot tougher than I am, wrestler, fullback. I was, prissy quarterback. Do you think offenses will ever go back to the wishbone, to pure inside veer? Like, will we ever see that at the college level at a successful Power 4 program? Like, do you think it'll ever get to that point, or do you think those are the good old days?
I mean, Michigan was damn close in that national title. They won a game against Penn State, not passing the ball the whole second half. So
which you just gotta love. Like you gotta love. Even if you're an air raid guy, you gotta love that. But I don't know. I mean, it's especially like the wishbone. You have guys at the high school level doing it, but who has the knowledge of it anymore? I mean, I know guys do, but it's kind of one of those offenses that unless you're picking up a book and you're going back, or you're watching like the 1950 something Texas or Oklahoma, film of it, where are you getting it from? I hate to say you're not going to see it again, but then again, the Division II level, Division III level, you're seeing like Harding and Minot State, and Eastern New Mexico is down in I think they're NAIA. Salisbury's running it again. Friends University out there, they're in NAIA. These teams are the teams that are consistently in the playoffs at the lower levels are running some of these offenses. So it's tough to say. Paul Johnson, when he was at Georgia Tech, obviously, and Georgia Tech had a good year last year, but they haven't been the same since he left. And I know he wasn't necessarily winning championships, or at least national championships, but it's tough to say. I would love to see it. I don't hold my breath on it, to be honest with you. But it seems to win. You see Army last year. I mean, Army is on the cusp of having a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. And, if it was it Notre Dame they lost to? I can't remember who they lost to. That was kind of the big thorn in their side towards the end of the season. But you're looking at an undefeated team talking about a Heisman Trophy quarterback and possibly entering the playoff at Army. So, you can't tell me that you can't win with it. And they're not exactly bringing in 5-star guys, and that's not a shot towards Army. But, you can win with it. It's just a matter of finding the fit.
Well said. I hope so, man. I mean, it'd be a sad day. Like the way you even described how offenses might be lost. Like you said, nobody's teaching them anymore. It's like got to crack open a book to find it. It's kind of sad when I heard it. Thanks again for joining us, Matt. We really do appreciate your time, man. We love your page. Keep it going. Can you let our listeners know where to find you? I know you have a website that sells some pretty awesome merch as well. Can you maybe direct some of our listeners to that stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Last of the Fullbacks. I think my actual handle is The Last Fullback. But you'll be able to find me on there. I've got like a link tree. It's got a bunch of links. I have a Substack that I really haven't done a lot with lately, we have a newborn. Well, I say a newborn. She's about 9 months old now, so she's had my hands full as far as that. But I've got a Substack. I'm getting into probably starting a podcast here soon, and kind of some of these relationships I've been able to build over the past few years. Hopefully, getting guys on and just picking their mind and just talking ball, kind of like we're doing now. Yeah. And then last of the fullbacks.com is kind of my like merchandise page or whatever. Definitely check that out. So between those places, but definitely if you go to my X page, you'll be able to find everything on there. And I appreciate the support, appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll do this again soon.
All right, guys. I mean, this has been a fun podcast. Bill Hobson talking football with Matt Saunders. This has been a lot of fun. It might be a little long, but still a lot of fun.
Yeah, two guys from kind of two different. We got the Southern guy and Matt Saunders, talking football and fullbacks. Then we got Bill Hobson up here in Michigan talking about golf. So a little bit of something for everybody, I would think. But two fun interviews. We teased them a little bit earlier, but I could talk to Bill Hobson all day, the czar of Michigan golf. I mean, the guy has played probably more golf courses in Michigan than any other human out there. I honestly would have loved to have asked, how many courses have you played in Michigan?
Right.
I would guess hundreds.
I would guess
hundreds
too.
Easily. So, no, it was very cool. And then talking to Matt Sanders, I honestly do love his page for, it's got the entertainment side of stuff, fullback aesthetics and that sort of thing. But it's also got a lot of educational stuff just as a casual football fan that I enjoy, learning a thing or two about what I'm watching instead of just, watching two guys smash heads. It actually helps explain a little bit of the concepts that what makes some of these teams good.
Well, we're finishing the summer with a bang because this is leading right into next week's 8th annual Prep Pigskin Preview. We got another roster of great experts from throughout the state, all the way from up in the Upper Peninsula down to the Detroit area, Grand Rapids. We got the whole state covered. The Thumb. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope you tune in next week. We're looking forward to it once our big guy there, Matt, puts it all together. Little work coming up.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of people who are, gracious with their time and giving us their previews of their areas. It's always, I know, Jared, you've always said that you wish it was something that was around when you were playing. I would say the same thing. It's a really cool show. Obviously, we're trying to promote our own podcast, but I think it really is. If you like high school football, of course, it's a really entertaining, ends up always being an hour and a half, hour 45 previewing the season. We always say it'd be funny to go back and listen to it after the state finals at Ford Field and be like, were our experts on to anything? Did they know what they were talking about? But yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, no, it's one of my favorite things we do. I mean, Matt, you do a great job putting it together. You guys are the ones that are the magicians, getting all this stuff lined up. So it's kudos to you guys. It really is an awesome product. So I'm excited to hear the finished thing next week.
Yeah, and it's it's interesting to see too, because we follow the podcast world. We've been doing it. This is our 8th season, but we're seeing other people coming on board and doing some similar type of stuff. But don't forget, we're the granddaddy. Right? We're the OGs.
We're the OGs. Yep.
All right, let's call it a podcast, fellas. This has been the 3 Point Podcast, brought to you by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Make sure you follow them on Facebook for more details. Also, our other partners include AZ Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Corey Shook and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Tap House and Grill, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, the Shiawassee County Fair, and ALS of Michigan. By the way, I'm proud to report all our sponsors back on board for another year. Awesome. So, anytime you see them, give them some business, tell them you listen to the podcast here. It goes a long way. And I mean, I've been in the radio business, as you guys know, a long, long time, but I think we have a great roster of partners. I'm not even BSing there. We got some good ones.
I mean, really, we've said it before, it covers a wide range. I mean, if you're looking to buy a house, everyone's in the real estate business, it seems like. We got there with a mortgage company. Everyone needs insurance. We've got people in the insurance. So I mean, really do. We appreciate all of our partners. The Shiawassee County Fair just wrapped up with a great week. So all good stuff.
Love them all. Love them all. By the way, Chi-Town performing Wednesday night, August 20th in Linden at the Kimball Sharp Gazebo and Park. Check out the boys, 7 to 8:30. And also Wednesday night, I've seen Chi-Town a few times. I'm going to pass on this show. I'm going to the Owasso Speedway and seeing Eric Jones race on Wednesday night.
Oh, right. Yep.
I'll have a report on that the next time as well.
Nice.
Again, thanks to Bill Hobson of Michigan Golf Live. You can follow him on X and Twitter at MGLBill, and also we want to thank Matt Saunders at The Last Fullback. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to you guys. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week with the Prep Pigskin preview. So long.